On this mini timeline, we're actually checking out a couple of movies that you guys chose. We're watching the Gate duology, which I ran a poll a little while back to ask which mini timeline you wanted me to cover, and this was one of them. So let's go check out to see if you can hold up a timeline over just 2 movies.
The Gate opened back in 1987, directed by Tibor Takacs, and featured the very first film role for little baby Steven Dorff, who recently said that he hates Marvel movies and that he was embarrassed for Scarlett Johansson because Black Widow looks like a video game, as if he didn't get transformed into a big CGI blood blob in Blade. When little Glenn hears Treehouse is struck by lightning, he and his friend Terry discover a big old hole in the ground. His parents leave him and his sister at home for a few days together, and this is definitely set in the 80s. When this geode rock forms words on the kid's sketch pad, do you think that they read them out loud? Of course they do, because you know what to do anytime you find ancient text, right?
That's what you do. You just read that sucker right out loud.
Spooky stuff, of course, starts to happen, including a dead dog, which is always a bummer, and there's a calendar in the background here that lets us know that we're set in July of 1986. Luckily, Terry happens to have a metal album that shows the exact symbols from that pad on the cover, and pretty soon, creatures are under the bed, and these awesome little mini creatures start showing up, and for the demons to cross over, the hole needs 2 human sacrifices. And they think that they managed to seal off the gateway, but then, in that traumatic part of our childhoods, the worker that Terry made up that was sealed in their walls appears and drags him off. Combined with the earlier scene of the parents' face melting, cemented a spot in my phobias. I mean, seriously now, did anyone see this thing in their youth and not have it haunt their nightmares? He then falls apart, splitting into the little demon guys before coming back to take away Al, the second sacrifice. And the giant old god appears and makes an eyeball appear on Glenn's hand. And then he goes away. Glenn stabs the eye and then shoots the big guy with the rocket his sister brought him. And since that gift was out of love, that love defeats the evil and saves the day, restoring Angus, Terry, and Al to life. 3 years later, a sequel emerged with Gate 2, The Trespasser, which again had Takacs at the helm. And Terry is back, and he says he's been staring at Glenn's house for 2 solid years. So apparently we're set 2 years later, which would make this one in 1988 then. Terry's obsessed with reopening the gate and doing it the right way, so he goes back to the house and does a ritual, but is interrupted by a couple of kids, including a very young Bobby Hill, before her voice was fried and credited with her maiden name of Pamela Siegel. They ruin the ritual, but Terry retrieves one of the little guys, and they all make wishes. The little bugger eventually revives, and Terry's dad magically stops drinking and gets his pilot job back. And weirdly, Terry talks about his dad and says, "Last year, after my mom died, my dad attempted suicide." Weirdly enough, Terry's mom was dead in the previous film. So I guess he's talking solely about the suicide attempt being last year, but it was just a weird way to phrase it. It makes it seem like his mom died last year. They start wishing for things like a car and money, but then the things that they wished for turn into big piles of poop. Like, did they just wish for the gifts or money to buy the gifts? I mean, wouldn't the money turn to dung and the stores that they bought the things from have that? And the gifts would be fine? His dad ends up in the hospital, but then John and Mo kidnap the little bugger, and see, look, the money turns to poo, not what they bought. So I guess all that stuff that Terry and Liz had, they wished for, I guess. So the trick would be to wish for a bunch of money, and then go out and spend it really quick before it turns, and then you get the stuff. After getting scratched and bitten by the minion, John mutates into something resembling the creature from the last film, just lumpier. And then they go back to Glenn's house, where Mo has changed as well, and they capture Liz, so Terry crosses over into the other realm to save her, but he starts to transform as well. He resists and manages to seal off the gate, but is killed in the process. And geez, this poor guy. I mean, his wife dies a few years back, and the anguish of that makes him put a gun in his mouth. And luckily he doesn't go through with it, but he ends up a wreck and an alcoholic, loses his job, and now his son dies? Luckily, Terry's alive. I mean, I guess because the funeral home doesn't do embalming, and Mo and John are alright too, making the body count for the 2 films a solid 0, which is nice for a change. And I mean, this one gives us a post-credit scene that shows us that even the freaking hamster survives. And that was it for the franchise, although Louis Tripp, who plays Terry, went on to get involved in music, and he did make a music video in which he revived the character who I guess opens another gate and releases a metal, insane clown bossy member. It's not my cup of tea.
So there you have it. It's just 2 movies and holds up pretty well. There's one minor inconsistency with that mom comment, but that could just be a misinterpretation of a line. I could see how it could kind of go either way, but both of these movies were a lot of fun. This was a great rewatch. I haven't seen either one of these for quite a while, and they hold up. They're still a blast and very enjoyable. I can kind of see why they never really made their mark on horror history as much as I think that they could have. They're maybe a little too family friendly for a horror crowd, but maybe a little bit too disturbing with the imagery for a kid crowd. So it didn't quite tap into that Gremlins-y kind of a thing as much as I think it wanted to. But I mean, they're a blast. Nobody gets hurt. Nobody gets hurt in both of these movies. Everyone's completely okay by the ending of both of them. Everyone survives. So it is very family friendly. But yeah, if the image of that creepy dude crawling out of the wall and that dad's face melting down does not stick with your kid brain, then yeah. It's going to do that. Let me know what you thought of these down below in the comments. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit that bell so you get your notifications, and check out my Patreon page at patreon.com/movietimelines and help support this channel. I know I'd appreciate it, but I also appreciate you just watching the videos. So thank you very much for doing so, and I will see you very shortly for another great one. Thanks, guys, and goodbye.